Good morning, Sunny Hill family. Hope you're well. It's Thursday, the 25th of July. Here we are, take 5 today. We've been working our way through the first bit of the book of Exodus this week. And today is a longer passage. We're looking at 5 chapters, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. And this is a whole section. It's a very well-known section of the history of Israel where God sends all the plagues onto Pharaoh and onto the land of Egypt, but not onto the Israelites who were living in the land of Egypt at the time. So it's quite specific to the Egyptians, and it's all because Pharaoh has hardened his heart towards Israel and towards God particularly, and it won't let God's people go. And so God promised that he would do these things, and so all these plagues come on the Egyptians. Now, what I wanted to do today is to kind of go back a little bit. At the beginning of chapter 4, when God is first giving this commission to Moses to come to Pharaoh and to be the deliverer, and Moses is kind of making all these excuses, saying, "Look, I'm not the man for this." God asks Moses a question. He says, "What have you got in your hand?" And it's a really important question, and I don't know if you've ever thought about that. What have you actually got in your hand? And it's a question that is relevant to us today, because Moses says to God, "Well, I've got this staff." He's got his shepherd's staff in his hand, and what God tells him to do is to throw it on the ground, and there's all sorts of miracles that happen with this staff, and when Moses is trying to convince Pharaoh, this staff, it becomes a bit of a staff of miracles. It turns into a snake. He holds it over the waters. He does all sorts of things. Later on, we know that he uses this staff to hold over the Red Sea, and the Red Sea parts so they can walk through. The staff isn't important. What's important is this is what Moses has. And so the question becomes to us is, what have you got in your hand? If you think, "Oh, I'm not good enough, I'm too weak, I'm not smart enough, I'm not educated enough, I'm not clever enough, I don't have enough time," God would say to you, "What have you got? What have you got? What do you have? What can you lay down and give to me to use?" Because actually that's all he's asking for. He's not asking you to provide anything that you don't have. He's asking you to provide what you do have, because God will take what you have and he will use that for his own glory and to do amazing things. So I guess the first question is, what's in your hand? What have you got? What skills do you have? What resources do you have? What time do you have? What have you got that you can offer to God for him to use? And then, even if that is small and seemingly unimportant, and even though that everything in human nature tells us to cling to what we have, God would say to you, release what you have, because he can do mighty works with it. And he wants to know that we can trust him, that we have faith enough to trust God with what we have. God in 1 Corinthians, it tells us that God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the wise, or to confound the things that are mighty. And if we yield what we have to God, God can do amazing things. So in this passage then, between chapters 7 and 11, all these plagues come on, and Moses is obedient. He releases what he has, and we see all these amazing kind of miracles, all these plagues on the Egyptians, the plague of blood, the plague of frogs, of gnats, of flies, of livestock, of boils, of hail, of locusts, and eventually darkness and the last plague, which is the death of the firstborn children. Obviously it's horrendous, and God is just looking for Pharaoh to do what God wants him to do, which is to let his people go and stop enslaving his people. And there's very much parallels in this, in our journey from being a unbeliever to being a believer. And obviously we'll look at that a little bit tomorrow in chapter 12, when we see God's plans come to fruition. But today, my question to you is, what have you got? What resources do you have? What's in your hand that you are happy to let go and give to God and see him use you in a mighty, mighty way. Bless you. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.